There's been some shifts in the POS industry over the years. What started in the late 1890s with a cash register company called NCR, they invented the cash register. It was primarily to prevent theft in family-owned businesses. It then didn't really have a shift until after World War II, when they started using motors, electric motors, to drive the gears. Before that, they had a hand crank, and they would hand crank that register to make things work inside, make the gears work. But with the addition of the electric motor, it became a relatively easy concept and easy machine to use. It had department sales. 4 to 8 were just like a big deal. That was huge. It had no sales tax calculation and really didn't have any changes for about 40 or 50 years until the 1980s. The sales tax, since it wasn't calculated automatically, you had to use a sales tax chart where you would look down on the left and you'd find the amount, and then to the right would be the tax. And that's how you actually calculate the tax. This left a lot of room for error, but it was better than what they had, which was paper and pencil. The first electronic point of sale system was in the 1970s, and this is the terminal here. It's called Data Terminal Systems, DTS. It was a big deal. It had network communications. The terminals talked to each other. Sales tax calculations were automatic, and it had a lot of departments to it. They had programmable commands. They were called macros, and they would be able to kind of customize the product. And this thing really, truly revolutionized point of sale. But even at this point, the credit cards did not interface with the terminal. They were still a sidecar, still a side terminal. The first touchscreens were in the 1980s. This particular one's a squirrel system, and they were the ones who really, I think, invented the touchscreen. It was very popular with high-end restaurants because you could then modify it. You could change and have very flexible menus with modifiers and multiple printers in the kitchen. This was a very popular item. Um, the initial models were proprietary hardware and a proprietary operating system with networks and hardware. So it was all very specific to that model. This is a Micros 2700. It was a modification. It had touchscreen up top. It had some flexible keys down below, and then at the bottom were fixed keys. So this was a very popular brand and very popular model. And then came Windows. And with the Windows, it gained popularity because of the graphics and the screens. It was very programmable, very easy to work with, and the networking was standardized. Restaurants slowly transitioned to the Windows-based systems, away from the electric and the electric mechanicals. So now we're doing another shift, and that shift is now toward tablets. It's primarily the Apple and Android tablets, and right now this is the hottest trend in the industry. Don't know where we're going next, but for right now, tablets are dominating the point of sale industry. Change is part of life. And where we started with the mechanical register, and then we moved into the electromechanical, then we moved into the electronic point of sale systems. Now we're into the touchscreen system, proprietary, which is fading away into the Windows. That's what happens. You can still find some of these original touchscreen systems. They are still out there. And now the Windows is fading away, and we're getting into tablets. Now, this particular one is showing an Android tablet, and it's showing an Android handheld, but these can be either either Apple iOS products or Android, either one. So why change? Why do we have to always be changing? And if, well, we're improving is the bottom line. We have a lot of dealers that say, but my customers don't want to change to a tablet POS. And I challenge that. I challenge that hard because the customer may not know why they need to change. They may not know what the benefits are. But that same dealer who's saying my customers don't want to change to a tablet POS, they now come back 6 months later and they say, I'm losing customers to fill in the blank. And it's a tablet POS system. They may not have time for the salesman, but they don't truly understand the benefits of what they're going to get from these modern POS systems. So my challenge is to salespeople is to start taking charge of your career and start selling. Don't be an order taker. Sell something. Know your product, know why you have this, and then go out and find those customers. Pull those doors to find the prospects, ask the questions to generate the interest, and then give your prospects a reason to change by presenting solutions to their problems. Now, I'm going to pause for a moment and see if you have any questions before we get into the next portion of this. All right, so let's get into the next piece. Let's look at the top 5 reasons cloud POS is far superior to Windows, not just superior, far superior. And this is why your customer needs to move to tablet and needs to move to the cloud. There are customers who are a little afraid of it, and probably because they don't understand it. So let's take a look at 5 reasons why cloud is more superior. And first thing is it's operating system. It's included with the tablet hardware, therefore it's no extra charge. The Windows software is chargeable. It does cost to upgrade. So it is it's not inexpensive. Updates are automatic with the OS systems of the tablets, and they have a predictable life cycle, meaning that you know when they're going to then be replaced by the next version. You can opt to keep your current hardware. We have some operating tablets that have been out there 4 or 5 years. Think of the cost per month on a tablet that costs you $300-400 that you've kept now for 4 years. It's a really small amount of money. And they're also, iOS and Android are far more stable than Windows. And I put no DLLs. There's always the library files that do cause problems. And then when you have an issue in a Windows system, you can almost always look for the DLLs to be needing to be upgraded. So there's no such thing as those type files in an iOS or Android system, and then therefore they're far more stable. Number 4 is system redundancy. Backing up a Windows system is cumbersome, and it takes special commands and scripts to make that happen. Whenever I used to install Windows systems, I would install those scripts, and I wouldn't have the system do the backup. But it was something that you had to physically add to the system. It was not an automatic. Cloud systems not only keep the database away from the localized problems, it is redundant at several levels at once. So the database is not kept at the store level, it's kept on the cloud. That cloud then is not susceptible to lightning and those problems that the store can have. And it's also redundant, meaning that it's copied to multiple servers at multiple locations. Windows networks are far more difficult to set up. The networks on the iOS and Android almost do themselves, set themselves up. A Windows backup is as current as the last backup, meaning if you do it weekly, then you're only as current as a week, every week. If you do it every day, then it's every day. Makes sense, right? Well, a cloud backup is as current as the last transaction, and it's automatic. It takes no effort on the part of anybody to do. Where the Windows backup does take some effort, it does take some human intervention. The cloud backup is as current as the last transaction. Therefore, the restoration from the cloud is fast and is as current as the last transaction. You don't have to worry about losing data with the cloud system. Number three, the data is safe. The data packets are encrypted for transport to the cloud. So that means that they are put under a security encryption, then they're sent to the cloud and then back down. With the Aldelo system, our security encryption changes every few seconds. So that is even more secure, if you will, much more difficult to hack. Windows networks have a heavier traffic for the same amount of data. They're not as encrypted. They're not as crunched down. So it's more data. It's a larger package. And like I said, our encryption does change automatically, and the transactions for credit cards are tokenized, so they only have a limited lifespan. And then our Amazon Web Services, though cloud servers are scattered to protect data. So we take that same data and we put it on multiple AWS servers in multiple physical locations, that is, in multiple cities. There's no storage concern because we won't run out of drive space, and our customer data is far more secure on cloud servers. So let's get the customer comfortable with the fact that their data is not sitting in a PC in their back office. Their data is backed up in numerous locations on the cloud, and it is much more and far more secure there than it is at the store level. Then number two, reliability. The database that is kept in the cloud is also backed up at the store level on every device. This is done for speed and reliability. The Aldelo Express is not dependent on the cloud to work. If you lose your internet connection, you still print orders to the kitchen. You still have receipt printers and your kitchen display system to work. We are not dependent on the cloud in order to operate the restaurant. That makes it also, with the reliability aspect, it's much easier to support remotely. You don't have to have a third-party software in order to log into the system. You just simply log into the back office cloud and do your manipulation and your changes there. Much easier to support. And then the number one reason for cloud versus Windows is cost of ownership. There's no back office server to buy or fail to have to replace. There's no server in the system at the store level. That makes it a much less expensive initial investment. Tablet POS hardware is far less expensive. And then it's also off-the-shelf replaceable. So if you have a Windows computer, it is not as easy to replace, or a touchscreen is not as easy to replace. Think about a tablet. If you have a tablet that goes down, you can run down to your local store and buy a replacement. It's far less expensive. The old Windows hardware cannot run the newest software without an upgrade. And therefore, upgrades you have to pay for. And eventually, that hardware will not run the most current point-of-sale software. The software outpaces the actual hardware. With the tablets, upgrades are far less expensive because they really don't cost you anything. Software for iOS software and Android upgrades, no charge. So all these 5 reasons that I just listed, that's why Aldelo Express Cloud POS is the best POS solution. And that's the one that you need to lead with when going and talking to prospects. Help them get through their fear of the cloud and how that cloud POS operates. Get comfortable yourself with it, and then be able to then portray that to your customers.